On this episode of Misfit Monday, I'm going to be taking an old and broken down violin and turning it into a beautiful piece of wall art. So if you like classical music, if you like to decorate with a musical motif, or if you happen to be a fan of Joanna Gaines and Fixer Upper, I saw this one on the wall in one of the houses that she redid. I think you're really going to like this episode, so come along with me. The Misfit piece that's going to be starring in this Misfit Monday episode is this beautiful violin. I found it while I was out on a pick here in the state of Pennsylvania. It was in a dark room behind some boxes, and I first spotted the case. And whenever you spot an instrument case, you're always crossing your fingers that there's something beautiful inside. Well, let me show you what I found. So just take a look at the treasure I found inside. Look at that, isn't it absolutely beautiful? Exactly what I was hoping for, a case that actually has a real instrument in it. And I think it's a violin, just based on its size. The measurement of the body tells me that it's probably a violin versus a viola. It's a little bit smaller, but you can see that it comes with a couple of bows, and the strings are broken. Looks like it's missing the bridge. And I don't know the name of this part down here, but this has come disconnected as well. But the body itself looks like it's in great shape. And look at how beautiful the scroll is on top. But it came with some extra parts, some missing parts, some extra bridges, an old cloth that was probably used to shine it up. I just want you to see, although it's broken, it's still incredibly beautiful. And I think it's got some life left in it yet. So I'd like to take this piece back to almost a natural state. And to do that, I'm going to start by removing the strings. And you do that by simply twisting the tuning pegs here and removing the strings. The strings have all been removed now. You can see how beautiful that looks without the strings. I do have a few extra parts here. It looks like I could put the strings back on if I want to once I'm finished here, and I may decide to do that, so I'm just going to hang on to these pieces for now. My plan for this piece is to take it back to almost a natural finish, if that's possible. I've not done this before with a violin, so we're just going to kind of play and see where we end up. I started off with Citrus Strip. It's a stripping gel that can remove paint and varnish. I've of course got some gloves on to protect my hands, and I'm just going to use an old chip brush to paint this on. I'm going to just start with the back, and the directions say to paint it on and then allow it to sit for 30 minutes to up to 24 hours. So once I get this on, I'm going to need to let it sit for a little while and just kind of see what kind of progress we make in removing some of this finish. But the one underneath is absolutely beautiful. Love all the sort of the veining. It's almost got a zebra stripe to it. And I was doing a little bit of research. It looks like violins are often made with maple and I can't remember. Maple is often used in the back, and I think cedar used in the front, if I remember correctly. And I did the best I could to see if I could figure out who actually made this violin, and I don't see any information. I looked inside the F-holes, got out my flashlight, tried to do a little bit of detective work, but I am not able to find any information on the inside. But you can see in the back here, well, you won't be able to see, but there's a little bit of a crack running through the back where the back pieces are separating a little bit. So musically, I don't know that it's terribly useful, but I can assure you when I'm all finished here, it's going to be something that's going to be really a gorgeous piece to hang in your house. So I'll go ahead and touch up the sides with this, and then I'm going to let it sit and we'll see what we come up with. It's important when you're working with this product to make sure you're in a well-ventilated area. I'm here inside of a barn. I've got a door wide open in front of me, so there's plenty of air and ventilation going through here. But just make sure you protect yourself while you're doing this kind of project. I wish you could see, but as I'm painting this on, I've got birds that are flying in and out of the barn here, flitting in and flitting back out right over my head. If I had a couple cameras set up, I could capture it, but I kind of feel a little bit like Snow White. Snow White that played and hung out with all of the animals of the woods or the forest. It's such a beautiful thing. It's fun. I'm making friends with barn swallows today. Hey, good morning, sunshine. I decided to go ahead and give our project 24 hours to sit. I wanted to make sure that our stripping gel had a good opportunity to do the work that it does instead of trying to rush it. I figured long term it'll probably save me a little more time to go that route than to have to apply and reapply and reapply. So it's been sitting for 24 hours. Let's just take a minute and see what kind of progress we've made. Well, as you can see, it's not pretty at the moment, but I'm gonna go ahead and put on some gloves and we'll start taking off some of this citrus strip and just see what our wood looks like. I'm gonna start off just using a paper towel to see how much of this I can pull off. But there's probably gonna need to be some light, gentle scraping that needs to happen. You can see all the color that's coming off there. So I think waiting was probably a good call. Oh, look how beautiful that wood is underneath. So it's taken the sheen off, the varnish that would have been put on the surface here. And we're getting down to just that stained wood. So I'm going to continue on and pull as much of this off as I can. Ooh, look how pretty. Oh, this is going to be gorgeous. Having a scraper in this process is helpful. I've just got it's like a rubber scraper I've got from a Bondo product I'm using. And just gently scraping the wood. And you can see we've still got some of that dark color coming off. So I think it's worthwhile to pull that up, but I would just recommend being very careful so that you don't scratch the surface. And this tool actually helps get into some of those little cracks and around the curves a little bit better than just using my paper towel does. You can hear the birds are up this morning. They're welcoming. There's always all kinds of barn swallows here. Copyright laws don't allow me to actually sing it, but insert my rendition of Fiddler on the Roof. I had to. Fiddler on the Roof is a classic. All right, I want you to see what the violin looks like now after I've finished using the stripping gel. And you can see we got the sheen and the shine off of it. Look how beautiful that wood is. So my next step is going to be to take some bleach to the violin. And I think bleaching it a couple of different times is really going to take out some of the dark stain that's still there, bleach the wood a little bit, and hopefully we're going to come up with a really natural, beautiful effect. So let's start bleaching. I'm going to use just some household Clorox bleach. I poured it into a glass jar, and make sure you choose your container wisely. I'm not sure that putting it into plastic is the best idea. And I've got myself a chip brush. Make sure you're in a well-ventilated area and make sure you're wearing the gloves to protect your hands. And it might be wise if you put some goggles on as well. This part of the process is pretty simple. And I have put my violin on just a cardboard box, something to protect the surface underneath. Just go ahead and brush it on. I would go with the grain of the wood, and I would guess that this is gonna raise the grain of the wood just a little bit as well. We'll see. You can already see it starting to lighten a little bit. Moving pretty quickly, and I'll tell you, I don't have the right tools to remove the chin rest here, so there are going to be some spots around the rest that probably still have a little bit of that varnish or shellac on them. I wasn't able to get them to lift up because they're in hard to reach places. I have a feeling that's going to add to the uniqueness and the beauty of this piece when we're all finished, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. And you could sand if you want to, but I would just caution against sanding. What we don't want to do is destroy the wood. It's so beautiful, such a gorgeous wood. And certainly not inexpensive if you were paying for buying something like this new. So I just like to kind of preserve it and not get too crazy with sanding. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this sit for a couple hours and see what kind of results I can get just with maybe a 2-hour window. I may need to add a little bit more. I may even want to let it sit overnight. I know oftentimes when you're doing a bleaching technique, you're gonna get the best results when you can let it sit overnight. So I'll check back with you shortly. It's been 2 hours. I'm back and you can see how much that bleaching has actually lightened up the violin. It's really looking pretty good. Look how beautiful the back is. It's still a little bit wet there, but I'm gonna go ahead and apply another coat of the bleach and I'm gonna leave it overnight because I'd like to see what kind of effect I can end up with if I really give it a good, I don't know, 12, 16 hours to sit. So I've gotten up this morning and this is what she looks like after being bleached and left to sit overnight. And I like the direction that this is going in, and I don't think I'm going to do any further bleaching, but if you decided you wanted to do that, you could go ahead and put on another application of that bleach, let it sit overnight again, and just kind of see where you end up. So it's dried or fairly dry, and I'm going to go ahead and apply a neutralizing solution, and all a neutralizing solution is vinegar, 50% vinegar, 50% water, and I'm going to just go in and paint the neutralizing solution on. And I'm going to let this dry as well. So I'll make sure that I get the front and get the back. See how pretty this is looking. It's just beautiful. And I did a little research overnight about the difference between a violin and a fiddle. Honestly, there's not a whole lot of difference. The difference is actually, from what I understand, in the strings. And based on the strings that were in this instrument, metal strings, they typically will say you'll have on a fiddle. And these actually have metal strings, steel strings, I believe they are. So this is very well could be a fiddle and not a violin. But a lot of it has to do with the kind of music that's played on the instrument more than anything else. I actually love the idea that it might be a fiddle. I think the kind of music that you play on a fiddle is more my personality. Oh, I grew up, my folks would take me to places like Opryland and Dollywood. And we would sit down and listen to some of the bands play. I just loved it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and just let that vinegar and water solution dry, and we'll be back shortly. So my violin or my fiddle has been bleached, it's dry now, and I'm ready to find a backing of some kind to put it on. I've decided whatever I do, it's not going to be permanent. I'd like to be able to take this piece off a wall and put it into a different room and have it just be a piece that has some versatility to it. So I came across this beautiful old door. I'm not exactly sure what it was for, but it was part of an old farmhouse. And so I'm going to use this door as the backdrop, and I'm going to hang it from the door just using some jute. I've got some staples that I'm going to pound into the wood, and I'm going to use this jute here and hang it from that, so that if I don't know, 6 months down the road, change my mind and decide that I'd like to hang it in my kitchen on a shiplap wall or put it in a bedroom or something, that it's going to be easy enough for me to do that. It's not going to damage the piece at all. I love to have options in decorating. For me, I change my mind. I like to change my mind about things. I like to mix things up a little bit, much to my husband's chagrin, but for me it's fun and always willing to try new ideas. To hang the violin from this door, I decided to use something that's kind of a temporary hanger. It's simply some jute and a staple. It's pretty easy to do. I'm gonna hang it by the scroll here, and then I think I'm gonna put another hanger here so that we're not putting too much pressure on this, on the top part of our scroll here. So I came across these staples, and you can find these at Walmart and probably other hardware stores, and you simply tack them in. They are wonderful for projects like this, and they're something that you can easily remove. I'm gonna go ahead and I've placed this second staple here. I'm gonna tap it in part way. Because our jute is almost the same color as our violin, it looks as if our violin is just floating on the backdrop. Now to give this a little bit of life, I decided to add some greenery or some florals to it. You could certainly hang the piece just as it is without that addition to it. I like the warmth, and I came up with some florals that I think are going to look nice with it. You kind of draw the yellow and the orange and the wood. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in, but I'm not going to make them permanent. I'm going to set it up in such a way that they can be pulled out if I decide I'm going to change it up at some point. So take a look. I found both of these. And I thought adding a little bit of reindeer moss would also be a good pairing with these. And I'm going to, instead of maybe affixing them to the top, I'm actually going to try and put some in one of the F holes here. Could do both, I suppose, but I'm going to do something maybe a little bit artistic and creative in one of the F holes here and just see what that looks like. We'll play with it a little bit and see what you think. I'm just snipping off some of what looks almost like a eucalyptus green, possibly. Snipping that off and snipping off a floral. And they're going to be short because you don't have a lot of space to work with here. And then behind the floral, I'm just adhering some of that reindeer moss to it. I think it'll look nice up against the instrument itself and give it just a little more interest instead of just being a floral tucked inside the hole. And instead of gluing onto the violin itself, I'm just using the hot glue on the florals. So I'm adding a little bit of glue, sticking the reindeer moss to the back of my floral, and then I'm going to tuck it into the hole so that I'm not doing any damage to the piece itself. I like to have one piece that sort of falls down the instrument. I might do something like that and then take this piece, put it there. happen to have some beautiful vintage ribbon that's got some similar color to it. It's a little bit of yellow, it's got some flowers in it. I think it would look really pretty with this. I'm gonna go ahead and add it. It may or may not be your style. It may or may not be my style either. I'm not sure until I get it on there, but I'm gonna just tie a simple bow with this and straighten it out a little bit, and I'm gonna glue this again onto the floral itself, not onto the violin. And maybe have it kind of just tucked kind of back in there like that with a little bit of glue. With or without the floral, this natural bleached violin is absolutely stunning and is sure to be a conversation piece in your home. So one of my favorite things about this Misfit Monday project is that it is not only timeless, but it's versatile. This is a piece that could fit into just about any decorating style. I can see it easily fitting into a modern look if you'd like to do that. It would fit well with a farmhouse look. In fact, Joanna Gaines used something similar to this in one of her Fixer Upper episodes. If you like boho, this certainly fits into the color palette of boho. The color palette typically involves something light in color, natural wood colors to kind of warm things up, paired with different textiles that are really light or off-white colors. I've chosen to do sort of a primitive style, I guess, by choosing to put the piece on an old door that came from an old farmhouse. You can put this piece anywhere, and I like to change my style. I'm a person who's not afraid to change it up a little bit. For me, to have a piece that I can make more versatile is the best kind of piece. So tell me what you think of this Misfit Monday project. I took an old violin or fiddle that I found at a garage sale, hidden behind a bunch of boxes. The owner of the sale was getting ready to move and everything just had to go. So I picked it up for a couple of bucks. I was excited to find it, but I found that it was missing some strings, had some broken parts, and definitely couldn't be used for its original intended purpose. But all of the art and the craftsmanship and the talent that went into making this piece, I thought it just can't go to waste. So by removing that dark stain in the varnish, lightening it up with some bleach, and then maybe showcasing it in a very different way, I think it's a unique piece. And if you love music, musical decor, I think this is a great piece for your house. Or if you just are a person who enjoys the detail and the craftsmanship that you find in an instrument like this, I think it's a project that's definitely worthwhile. But I'd love to hear how you feel about it. Give me your comments, share this video, share the link with other people, and all of your likes and your comments also help to spread the word. So please, help a girl out, and if it's up to you, be the reason that someone smiles today. Thanks for watching. Take care.